You hit your revenue goal. You hired the new team member. From the outside looking in, your business is a success story. So why do you feel more trapped in daily operations than ever before? If you're growing, but you still feel stuck inside your business, like if you stepped away for 2 weeks, the whole thing would grind to a halt, then this episode of Weekly Momentum is for you. Because that feeling isn't a sign that you need to work harder. It's a sign that your role just hasn't evolved with your business. And today we're going to fix it by looking at the one tool that tells the truth about your priorities, your calendar. If your business is growing, but it still depends on you for everything, that's not a time issue. It's a role issue. And more specifically, it's a calendar issue because your calendar tells the truth about your priorities. The jump from business owner to CEO, it's not automatic. It's a deliberate and often uncomfortable transition. You started this business with a skill. Maybe you're an accountant who is amazing at solving complex financial problems, or a therapist or private practice owner who shows up fully for your clients. Maybe you're a consultant who delivers incredible results every single time. That is what built your business, but it's also what keeps you pulling back into the day-to-day grind. That's what got you here, but it won't get you there. And what I see with so many successful entrepreneurs is that their revenue has grown, their team has grown, their client list has grown, but their schedule, it just hasn't evolved. Your calendar, it still thinks you're a solopreneur. Your calendar is still packed with the doing tasks that got you your first clients, but not maybe the directing tasks that will build a sustainable company. You're maybe the highest paid employee, not the CEO. And you're stuck because you're still the system. And if you're the system, your business can only grow as big as your personal capacity allows. So I'm going to walk you through how to use your calendar to make the shift from solopreneur to CEO. We're going to do a simple but profound diagnostic and create a new way of planning. And by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear framework to start building a schedule that reflects your role as a CEO and frees you up to do the work that actually matters. Weekly Momentum, it's your reset moment. It's your chance to pause the busyness and step out of reaction mode so that you can step into the next week and lead on purpose. Now, the weekly operating system is a simple 4-step flow that gives you the space mentally and physically and on your calendar. So you're not operating from overwhelm, you're operating with intention. Together, we're going to move through the 4 steps. Step 1, rewind, so you can celebrate real progress and use do-overs to identify new choice points moving forward. Step 2 is realign with the big picture, because the number one reason that most CEOs aren't hitting their goals is they're actually not taking the time to look at them. Step 3, plan your weekly top 10. So instead of keeping everything in your head or adding to a never-ending wish list, you're going to make clear agreements with yourself. One weekly goal and a focused top 10. You'll score that and use it to track progress each week. And step 4, you're going to plug all of that into your week so that you build your week around your top 10. You're going to set up Pomodoros as time blocks. I'll talk more about that later. And get your head in the game. So this week and every week, you can activate the momentum code. Know what you want, say what you want, and do what you say. If you're new to the weekly momentum process, make sure that you grab Momentum 101. It's the quick start program that's in the description below. It's a free program with all the worksheets and the how-to videos, so you can follow along and start building this weekly momentum habit right away. And once a month, just so you know, I host a live Plan Your Week with Me session. You can register for free for reminders and check the upcoming schedule in the description below too. Weekly momentum, oh my goodness, it isn't just planning. This is where you also look inward. You celebrate what's working, you tell the truth. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Every single week is a chance for an upgrade. upgrading your thinking, your decisions, your actions, and an opportunity to shift out of busyness, burnout, and scattered energy, and instead into clarity, momentum, and time freedom. Because this is a weekly habit that builds systems, not just about creating more activities and things to do. And if your business only works when you're working, you don't have a business. You have a very demanding job. Now, if this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe because this is going to be your weekly dose of momentum to help you lead your business like a CEO, and you don't want to miss an episode. All right, now let's bring it back to your calendar. That's what we're focusing on today because this is where everything we just talked about either happens or it doesn't. This is an operating system that's either keeping you in the day-to-day grind or moving you more into the CEO role. Most business owners don't really have a planning problem. They just have a kind of a misalignment between their role and how they actually are spending their time. And that shows up one place every single week on your calendar. Your calendar is the clearest reflection of your current identity in your business. So if your calendar is full of client work, quick fixes, and putting out fires, then your business is still structured around you being the one doing all of the work. What we're going to do is we're going to use the 4-step weekly momentum process to make planning like a CEO a habit. Because when you use the 4 steps, rewind, realign, plan, and plug in intentionally, you're not just organizing your week, you're redesigning how your business runs. You're creating space for CEO level work, and you're shifting from being in the business to leading it forward. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this 4-step process and apply it directly to your calendar so that you can build a schedule that actually supports the CEO version of you. And don't forget, if you want the full weekly momentum experience, you can go ahead and grab the Momentum 101 worksheets and step-by-step videos below, and it'll help you build this into a habit. But for now, let's walk through it together, starting with step 1, which is rewind. All right. First step, right? Rewind. I want you to do this with me right now. Don't just listen. Pause this video if you need to and pull out your calendar or your planner from last week. We're looking at last week. We're rewinding, okay? Now, have you got it? Now let's look at every block of time. What we're going to do is a simple time audit. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Categorize your time, starting with how much was spent in your business. That's doing client work, actually fulfilling the service that you offer, answering routine emails, that back and forth that keeps things moving but doesn't really move things forward, putting out fires, unexpected client issues, team questions you've answered maybe a dozen times before, tech glitches, even attending regular networking meetings that you go to a couple times a month. You might even highlight all of these activities that I just listed on your calendar from last week so you can really clearly see how much of this time and where it sits on your calendar from the last week. This is your technician work, your work in your business. Once you've done that, and once again, pause if you need to, now I want you to look for a different type of tasks. We're looking at how much time was spent on your business. Now, what does that mean? That means strategic planning, which is looking 6 to 12 months ahead. Also, this weekly momentum process that we're doing right here is working on your business, strategic planning. Another type of strategic planning or working on your business is system development, creating processes and systems so that a task can be delegated or automated instead of you doing it all. That is working on your business when you're building systems. Also, when you're doing high-level networking. And what I mean by that is if you are building partnerships that you can create leverage with, that are going to maybe build relationships that are going to bring a ton of business to you, not individual relationship business, but more of different companies that you're creating a partnership with. That type of networking is working on your business, as is team leadership, mentoring your team, key people, not just managing them or making sure that they're doing what they should be doing. That is building your team is definitely working on your business. And also your zone of genius. That is when you're doing the things that only you can do in the way that you do them. So it might be creating content, writing posts or that best-selling book that you're working on, presenting or leading workshops. Maybe you want to create videos, but it's doing the stuff that only you can do. All of these things are working on your business, and I want you to highlight them on the calendar from last week in a different color so you can clearly see, and maybe even add up the time blocks. How many hours did you spend working in your business? How many hours did you spend working on your business? And be brutally honest here. I know sometimes what happens is, if you're like most entrepreneurs I know, that the first list is full, that list of working in your business, and the second list is mostly empty. Maybe it's been delegated to that mythical someday when I have more time, I'll do that working on my business stuff. And that's how you just keep forging forward and working in your business, but not working on it. There are some clients that I work with, though, I want to point out, that are actually spending too much time on the second list and not enough time on the first list. They're spending too much time in working on their business, or when they're working on their business, they're doing stuff, they're not building and strategizing. So they're kind of halfway between working in and on their business, right? We want to make sure that that time that you're investing in working on your business is building systems, strategizing, forward thinking, and moving the business forward. Your week, gosh, it's just such a perfect reflection of your priorities. Because you can say one thing, but it's all about what you're actually doing. And right now, your calendar will tell you if you just did this exercise, if you're prioritizing yourself as the technician working in your business or the CEO working on your business. Now, this is where most people realize, oh, I don't have a time problem like not enough hours. They actually have a CEO gap. So now that we see the reality in black and white or yellow and orange, whatever colors you use to highlight, what we need to do in the next step, step two, is we need to realign. We need to really look at the big picture. What is the actual job of you as the CEO? And it really boils down for most businesses to three core functions. The first role of the CEO is to set the direction. This is the visionary thinking. This is where the ship is going, not just this month, but this year and the next 3 years. If you don't know the destination, then your team is just kind of rowing in circles. They don't know where they're going. And you're helping them move forward, but you're not getting anywhere. The second CEO function is making decisions. This is strategy, deciding what to do, and just as importantly, what not to do about allocating resources, how things are done, time spent, money, and attention to a few things to create the biggest results. And so, in your CEO role, you want to be making sure that you are making clear decisions so that your team knows what to do, and it doesn't need to interrupt you all the time because you've already been clear with your direction of what choices to be made and what's to be expected. And the third CEO function is gaining leverage. This is where you're actually building or helping to build systems, designing them at a minimum. And leverage, what I mean by that is it's about getting more output from the same or less input. And you need to build systems to do that. So I have one client who has a fantastic team. And such a great example of this idea of leverage because their team is working really well, but they don't really have systems in place. So they're quite inefficient. And there's maybe people doubling up on doing the same things. There's lag time between things being done. The team has the capacity to take on more clients um, without my client needing to hire any more employees. So she is in a place where she could gain leverage. She could build systems to get more output from the same input from the same team members without it being stretched too thin. So when we're really looking at the function of the CEO of gaining leverage and building systems, this is really how you're going to make the business grow. It means building systems, hiring and training a great team if you need to, and then creating the assets that work for you. So the team has everything they need. They have the standard operating procedures. You have all of the things you need to work like a well-oiled machine. Now, if the kind of work that I just mentioned, all of those three CEO functions, if this type of work didn't show up on your calendar when you did your little audit right now, it's not happening. Or if it's not on the calendar, maybe what's happening is it's just being squeezed in and it's probably a bit haphazard and it's certainly not consistent. I really want to hit pause for a minute to dive into this because when we squeeze in decision making, for example, or strategic planning, first of all, we take away all the creative and the fun out of it, right? But we also maybe aren't making the best choices because we're not taking the time to really explore all the options. So when you're just squeezing in choices, you're walking down the hallway, a team member asks you something, and you decide in that moment what the decision is. That can work here and there when you need to keep things moving along. But you don't want your CEO role to just only be squeezed in between other activities that you're doing. Think of it this way. A CEO's job isn't to row the boat faster, okay? Imagine your team, your company is all in the boat, right? And so the CEO's job isn't rowing the boat faster. Their job is to get on the shore, climb the highest tree, and shout, "We're going the wrong way," or "Yes, come on, forward, forward, come in this direction." Your job as the CEO is to have that high level perspective that no one else in your business can have because they're all so busy rowing. If you're also in the boat, not up the tree, and if you're just rowing alongside them, who's going to see where you're going? No wonder you might feel like you're spinning in circles or you're just stuck and bogged down in the day-to-day operations. Now, here's what's interesting. This challenge isn't a one-off thing. It might feel like a small breakdown in your calendar. Oh, I just need to plug in more time. But it's actually a signal. That little audit we just did is a signal that your systems haven't caught up with the growth of your business because your calendar is showing you exactly where your business still relies on you. Where there's no systems, you step in, and if you don't have systems, you are the system, which is exactly what limits your ability to scale your business. Now, I know you're really leaning into this, and I want you to know that I break this down even more detail inside the CEO Shift free training. It's going to show you how to move out of the owner's trap of doing and instead build your business around systems. So make sure you grab that free training. The link's in the description below. But let's keep going because you can start making this shift today. So, how do we fix this tactically? Well, that's where step three comes in. Step three is to plan. And I'm not going to tell you to blow up your entire calendar. Often we're working several weeks ahead. And so it's hard to make some dramatic changes, but we can make some little ones. I don't want to overwhelm you and give you unrealistic expectations of what kind of changes you can make in 1 week. But we're going to start small. We're going to start with just one thing. So, what I want you to do, looking ahead at the next week for your business, I want you to identify One 25-minute time block each day. And for those of you who are familiar with Pomodoros, that's what we're talking about. I want you to identify 25 minutes every day that you would be willing to commit to CEO level activities. Just one 25-minute time block a day. Figure out where in the day that might fit and when you can put that on your calendar, which we'll move fully into in the next step. And then what you're going to figure out is what is the single most important system under those three functions I just talked about, the direction, decisions, or leverage, that you could begin to build. You might not build the whole system in 1 week. Often systems are quite complex. They need time. They need experimentation. You need to get feedback on them, but you could start. So, what could you pick so that you are able to begin to step more into the CEO role? Because if we don't pick what you're going to do in this Pomodoro, what you might end up doing is doing CEO work, and then you're not any better off than if you were doing technician work. You see, the CEO shift is that you have to begin to move away from doing even CEO work to building systems. Yes, it's going to take longer to start, but it's the only way that you can just untangle yourself from doing everything. Even if you don't have a team, once you have a system, for anything, you can look at ways to automate that project or task, or even maybe to take baby steps and hire a virtual assistant to take on some of your activities. Now, I also want to take a minute right now to talk about hiring and growing your team because I see a lot of clients who hire too fast and fire too slow. I know you've heard that expression before, right? And what I strongly encourage you to do to avoid this is build systems yourself before you hire. That way, you will be setting up a winning environment for hiring and for running your business. So you want to make sure that you build the systems to create the winning environment for the employee to step into, to set them up for success. So often when you hire fast and then realize it's not working, it's because there was never a system in place for that employee. I know I just shared with you the three core functions to think about for the CEO role, but still, what system do you build first, right? In the CEO shift, I'll show you how to map out all of your business systems and identify the bottleneck. But to keep it really simple for now, I just want you to look back. Look back at the last week, and I want you to identify one system, the one that feels like maybe it's the most painful thing that's not working right now, that fits into your CEO role. And I want you to identify that one Pomodoro per day just for CEO activities, building that system. Just one system to focus on at a time. Really figure out, was it one of is it a system under direction, decisions, or leverage? Those are the three core functions of the CEO that I mentioned. Which one of those do you want to zero in on? And within that, which system do you want to build? Maybe, for example, it's mapping out your content strategy. So, looking forward, strategic planning for the next quarter so that you can then systematize it and you could hand that off to someone else. Maybe it's finally documenting your client onboarding process and putting it into a shareable standard operating process so that your whole team is consistent with the process and you don't have to oversee it. Doesn't matter which system you pick, just starting to make the shift and think about A, spending and investing time in the CEO role, and then B, blocking off that daily Pomodoro, just 25 minutes to move the business forward is going to make a big impact. Now, in step 3, plan, which we're in right now, as you're figuring out what it is that you're going to do in that CEO time block and you're decided on that one system that you're going to build, I also want to help you to make the shift of instead of reacting to your week, I want you to decide in advance instead of carrying everything in your head. I want you to make clear agreements with yourself. And the way to do that is to use the tool in the weekly momentum process in Plan, which is your weekly top 10. So, this is a list of clear priorities that you're setting for the week instead of having this never ending to do list or wish list, as a lot of my clients like to nickname it when they don't create a weekly top 10. And it also allows you to prioritize what's on that list and make a higher level commitment to it. And this will also allow you to measure your effort, your progress, instead of just how you feel at the end of the week. You're going to be able to see in black and white. And that's where you start really shifting into the CEO role with your calendar and your planning using the weekly momentum system. So I want to make this super clear. The weekly top 10 line items, right? And what I want you to do is I want you to take that system that you're going to begin working on this week in your CEO time, that 25-minute Pomodoro, and I want you to break it into 5 little baby steps, right? So the system, I want you to break it into 5 baby steps so that you could work on each one of them in 25 minutes and complete it each day this week if you work 5 days. So what that's going to translate into, that's going to be the first 5 line items of your weekly top 10. So that's going to be focused on systems building. We're baking it into your weekly top 10. It's going to be plugged into your calendar as a minute in a minute when we get to plug in. But first, we want to create this list. Now, the other 5 items on the weekly top 10, they are anything that you want them to be. They could be key to client work, revenue driving activities, must do commitments for the week. It doesn't matter. You have the freedom to pick whatever you want for the other 5 items. But I want to make sure that you're spending at least half the time, 5 items, working on your business. And then the other 5 items maybe are working in your business so that you're intentionally planning for both roles. You need both roles. And that's how we start to rebalance your week and shift your role at the same time. And this brings us to step 4, plug in. This is the simplest and the most powerful part of the process because it's all good and well to make a list, but once again, just like your big goals, if you don't look at them, it's not going to be a very good tool. So I want you to take that CEO level priority that you just decided, and you were going to block out time for it in your calendar before anything else, right? So I want you to figure out, and I recommend that you do it in a 25-minute time block in the morning when you're at your best, when you're fresh, when you're clear-headed in what I like to call your prime time, first thing in the morning. That's when most people are the most productive. So I want you to block off those Pomodoros literally on the calendar as if they were an appointment with someone else. Those 25-minute time blocks are sacred. It's not a maybe. It's not a, okay, if I get my emails done or I'll try and do my best. It's an appointment with the CEO of the company, which is you. You wouldn't stand up your most important clients, so don't stand yourself up. This 25-minute time block is the anchor for your entire day. It sets the tone. It's the visual, tangible proof that you are shifting your role. Everything else, the client work, the emails, the meetings, gets scheduled around it, not the other way around. This right here is the moment your calendar stops reacting and starts leading your business. This is how you move from being required in the business to being optional in the day-to-day. Now, doing this once this week is an action, but doing this every single week is building a new system, a new way of planning. This weekly momentum process isn't time management, it's role management. Your calendar, it has to match your role, or you'll just default to the role your calendar dictates. When you consistently protect that CEO time, 2 magical things happen. You actually make progress on big picture projects. The things that you've been having on your to-do list for months suddenly are going to start getting done. You'll start getting out ahead, creating real momentum. You're going to be forced to create systems for everything else because Your time for doing is now more limited. You have no choice but to build better processes because we've just taken 25 minutes away. So you've got to get more efficient. You've got to delegate more effectively. You've got to empower your team to solve problems without you. And as you do this, you'll start to see where the real bottlenecks are. There's only one constraint in the business, to be honest, at a time. And when you see it clearly, everything changes. And then you can start to unplug that constraint and you can build your week to carry your ideas so that they can really create momentum. As the CEO of the business, your week has to be built to carry your big, bold ideas forward. And this type of CEO strategic planning is exactly how you do that. So let's recap the framework that we just covered. First, we rewound. We looked at last week's calendar with brutal honesty to see where our time actually went. Second, we realigned. We looked ahead and redefined our job as the CEO, setting directions, making decisions, and gaining leverage. Third, we planned. We identified just one high impact CEO system for the coming week. And then fourth, we plugged it in. We scheduled CEO time blocks as a non-negotiable appointment in our calendar. And I hope that you committed to the CEO shift to repeat this weekly until it becomes the new operational default for your business, gradually increasing CEO time and building more and more systems as you go. Now, if you're listening to this episode and thinking, this is exactly the problem that I'm having in my business, go grab the free CEO Shift training in the description below is the link. That's where I walk you through the CEO 3 shifts to step out of daily operations. You're going to learn how to stop being the bottleneck and how to build a business systems map and create time freedom. And if you want to learn more about the weekly momentum process, make sure you also grab the Momentum 101 training for free below with the worksheets and how-to videos so you can follow along and build this as a weekly habit. Once a month, I host a live Plan Your Week with Me session. You can register below and get reminders so you stay in the loop. That's where we go through the basic weekly momentum process together in real time. And if all of this gave you something to think about, hit the like button, drop a comment, ask your questions below. I'd love to hear what your weekly goal is or what you're shifting this week. And make sure you subscribe. Weekly Momentum is your weekly dose of momentum to help you lead your business like a CEO, to rewind, realign, plan, and plug in. I want to be here to help you build the systems you need to shift your role. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in Momentum.